Okay, hi everyone. This is Gautam Puri, GP from Career Launcher, and this is my YouTube channel. And one of the first videos I'm doing. I'm extremely happy doing this video for multiple reasons. Okay? And you can also see Jijo on the side. And while I'm introducing this video, this will be anchored completely by Jijo. A couple of reasons for that. I requested Jijo to do an interview of my niece. Okay? She decided to take CAT sometime in mid-September. In 2 months, she was able to work her way to IIM Lucknow, okay, with a 98 plus percentile. And I have always maintained that it is very easy to crack CAT if you are focused, and 2 to 3 months are good enough. So Sakshi, my niece, happens to became a guinea pig. Or let me say, she became the way for me to prove a point to everyone that it is possible. Okay. Obviously, it is her hard work. I have always found her to be very dedicated and very focused in what she does. So that definitely is there. Because if you are going to have only 2 months to prepare, you definitely need to make sure you are absolutely focused. Okay. There are many things good about her. There are things which are not so good about her in terms of the preparation. And one of the reasons why I thought it would be incorrect on my part to interview her, I know her very well. And there are many things I'll take it for granted. Many things which are good I'll possibly ignore. And hence the important thing from a stone's perspective may not come out. However, when someone like Jijo, who treats her like any other stone, is likely to explore all specific areas. Okay. So that was my request to Jijo: interview her, so that stones who are preparing for CAT and think that it is not doable, they can be shown yes, doable. Yes, you need to put in effort. There's no doubt about it. But 2 months, 3 months, 4 months are good enough to clear CAT as long as you're focused. Okay. Yeah. So that's it from my side, and I'll hand over the baton to Jijo now. Yes, Jijo, over to you.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, Sakshi. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I've got a lot of questions that I've written down here. I'm going to ask them one by one. Before that, I read your blog, and we had just one interaction
Yes.
through a complete journey. And thank you for giving me credit in the blog, but just one interaction that I had with you during your preparation process.
I know that was a very short interaction, but one of the interviews that actually changed me and prepared me for my interview stage was the interview with you, which is why I felt like, give credit where it's due.
Yeah. So I'm not the hero of the story. You are. So I have the first question that I have is that you started your preparation somewhere in mid of September.
That is right.
20th.
That is correct.
So that tells me that this was never in plan. If let's say if
Right.
someone had planned for an MBA, they would have probably started a little early. So what's the story there?
So I was a practicing advocate, right? I decided that I will be pursuing an MBA sometime in mid of 2020. But coming from a background of like not having done maths in a couple of years, I thought the natural process for me was to give GRE and then apply to institutes through GRE, which is known for relatively easy maths. So CAT was never my focus. My focus then shifted to GRE and maybe apply to ISP after that. So my GRE attempt was scheduled in September. And, mid-August, I started talking to GP about my GRE attempt. And GP actually kept pushing me to give CAT as well. And at that time, I figured I could do it, I could not do it, but it was when I gave my GRE and I tanked my GRE. I did not do well at all. That's when I considered enrolling for CAT
Should
and preparing for CAT.
Should I ask your score? Is that about GRE score? Should I?
It was around 320, but it wasn't good. I expected much better.
So 320 is a good score. How can I say in 320 of tank? The people say the 320 is a good score. Your own expectations level is very different from.
That is right. So I have been someone who's always been good at studies. So I think I have the topper syndrome. GP used to rag me saying that I have the topper syndrome. So unless I do something and like I see it through completely, it's a problem for me. to like accept the results.
Okay, I have my second question, which is like in your blog, I was reading that you took a test in the beginning of your preparation. So that what percentile did you get in that mock test? This is September 20th, and the
Yes.
CAT is in November. What was it? I forgot the date last year. 27th, I think, roughly. 28th. Okay. So this was in what was your score that you got in that mock test that you took?
My mock test percentile for the first mock that I gave around the 25th of September, 27th of September, was in the 40s range. Like, no kidding,
Okay.
I took the test without any preparation and I was in the 40s percentile.
So here is where I have a couple of more questions. Okay. One is that you were preparing for GRE with a 320 in the GRE. Now I know. Okay. So then you hit 40th percentile. So GRE, you said you tanked. I'm looking at your frame of mind at that point in time. GRE, you tanked according to you with 320 as a score. Then you said that I'm going to prepare for the CAT. You could obviously give it a shot at GRE once again because that is allowed by GRE. You can take the test anytime. So you decided to take the test, took a mock test, and you got 40 percentile. And you had practically about 60 days to get that to very good percentile. My
That is
question, my question is, what went through your mind, and what made you decide and take the plunge that I will do this, and what was your frame of mind at that point in time?
when I did take up the CAT mock without any preparation, it was not to assess how I was going to do in actual CAT, but it was going to assess how my strategy should be shaped. So, just as a pointer, when I gave the mock test, it made me realize that there were certain areas I was strong in and there were certain areas I was weak in. And that identification was very important. And that was the sole purpose of taking the mock test, not getting a good result.
Oh, interesting. So which means you're talking like a lawyer. You had complete plan of action. So you're basically telling me that the reason why you took the test is not to assess whether you can take the CAT or not. You already made the decision. This was a conscious decision as a preparation tool to help you understand exactly what you need to focus on. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, that is correct. But it was not just my idea, it was also GP's idea. So
I'm guessing I'm guessing he forced you to do this. Did he?
he convinced me to do it.
Okay. Better word.
Convinced.
Convinced.
The thing is, Jijo, he was so sure in his conviction that CAT is only, if you prepare for 2 months for your CAT exam, you will do it. You will do well. So he was so sure in his conviction. And when someone's such an expert in the industry, you tend to believe them. So I actually believed him. And I decided to do it. And all through my mock scores, even when I wasn't doing well, he kept telling me he'll get better. And eventually it did.
Okay, so when I was reading your story, the one thing that resonated with me is that a lot of people go about the preparation for the exam called CAT with the attitude that I will do something of everything. Okay, while your preparation was like, I will not do something of everything. I will do everything of some things and nothing of other things. Okay, that's what I could figure out in your preparation. So you had the 60 days. Did you make a plan after the first mock test? Very clear plan in terms of this is what I can do, this is what I can achieve. If you did something like that, just can you let me know what that is?
So after my first mock test, I sat down and had a detailed analysis of my result. Let's divide it into the 3 sections. So first was VARC. Now I have my mock percentile, I think in VARC was in the high 70s. So for me, it was an indication that VARC is my stronger suit compared to quant and DILR, in which I scored very, very low. And plus, I couldn't finish my VARC section. So for me, for VARC, all I knew I had to do was practice a couple of para-jumbles every day and keep giving the mocks and analyze the mock. I had to work on my speed more than work on the preparation part for VARC. So my strategy for VARC was very simple. I won't prepare for VARC per se. I will give the mocks, I will analyze the mocks, and I will take I will hurry up in the actual mocks and That was my VRC strategy. For quant, and this was an area I personally struggled with a lot because I had no exposure to quant in the past 7, 8 years. And while I was a good student, while I was comfortable with maths when I was in school, it had been a long time since I touched it. So even refreshing your memory takes time. So the first thing I did was I sat down, made a plan of action. I decided that there were a couple of subjects in quant I will be touching. And once I start with them, I will do them thoroughly. So I sat down and watched a lot of videos online on the CL platform, videos by ARC, videos by GB, by GP, everyone. So I sat down and I actually learned stuff. But in what I was learning, I was very clear there were certain things that I did know, and I would first strengthen that and then touch upon certain areas after that. So what I did not know, I didn't want to waste my time on that because of the time crunch. So CAT at the end of the day, every question weighs the same. So you maximize on your attempt by doing what you can the best. So I set a goal for myself in quant that about 15 questions is my realistic goal. I am okay with leaving about 10 questions. And once I was clear with that, it was much easier for me to then take that call, preparation wise. Now coming to DILR, DILR was a section that was very new to me because even in GRE, I wasn't exposed to complete DILR, especially the LR part of it. But as I started preparing for DILR again through videos and material available online, I figured between DI and LR, LR was my stronger suit. So naturally, I first worked on all my LR sets which were available online, and then I switched to DI because I wanted to strengthen what I had instead of do a little bit of everything and then not be sure with what I've landed up at. At least this way, if I do everything of something, I'm sure that that something is my 100%. So I don't get negative marks in that. I convert those questions for sure.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm hearing from Sakshi is that you should not be of the attitude, I'm going to do something of everything. You have to figure out, you have to eventually sit and do everything of that something, which also tells me three things I can gather from what you're telling me, Sakshi, in your journey. One, you understood the test. Number two, you understood yourself within test. And number three, you had a mentor who understood both. So you had those three things working in your favor, which is very good. So I have this question. So when you were taking the CAT, what was you had college or you had completed graduation? What was your situation at that point in time during those 2 months?
So I had completed my graduation. In fact, I was a practicing advocate, but I was taking a break from my profession. Shortly before CAT, I was actually helping my dad with his business. So, I had the luxury of time. I had 2 months completely to myself, and I could dedicate the entire day to prepare for CAT. So while I prepared in 2 months, I prepared for about 10 to 12 hours every day. So that luxury of time was available.
10 to 12 hours every day. So 10 hours every single day.
Yes.
So what? Okay. So this what is it who you are as a person? You slog like this always, or it's only during certain bouts of inspiration this happens, or it's like this who you are?
Jitu, I'm someone who actually thrives well under pressure. So since there was a very major time crunch, I didn't have a choice, but I was supposed to do this. So in my head, when I sat down with my strategy, I knew for quant, I had to cover up my syllabus, at least what I planned on covering up. I had to cover it up in the first month itself, in the first 30 days. And while I was covering it up, I couldn't not take the mock tests. I also had to take my mock tests once every 3-4 days. I had to analyze those mock tests. And that also takes a lot of time. With that, I had to give other exercises as well, sometimes sectional tests, analyze them, revisit my mock tests, revisit my sectional tests. So because there was such a time crunch, I had no option but to put in the amount of hours that I did. And I'm sure anybody in my position will do that. If it's only a matter of 2 months as opposed to 2 years, it is a shot which is worth taking.
So what you're actually, I think the right way to look at your preparation, it's not about amount of days that you spend for a preparation, it's the amount of hours that you actually put in, which is to me looking at something like 600 hours of preparation. So
That's
if I
correct.
say, if I look at somebody starting today, for example, this is in the month of June end we are. Okay, so we probably will have about I don't know how many days. We have 6 months. That's like saying I'm going to put in 100 hours per month, probably about 3 hours per day. So your preparation for those 2 months was actually somebody putting in, let's say, 3 hours every single day for about 3.5 hours every single day for about 6 months.
That is correct.
So this is the way, the thing that I wanted to emphasize, at least to make it clear for the people watching it, it is possible if you put in the effort, irrespective of whatever time that you have. So but I should ask this, hypothetically, I'm saying this is a question that I don't know whether you can answer. Would you have probably got a similar result had that been not 10 hours per day, maybe about 6 hours per day or 4 hours per day in those 2 months?
See, Jijo, while I was working 10 hours a day, I was working only on 2 subjects. Now, that's a caveat. I wasn't working on VARC almost at all. So I think if I reduced the amount of time further to about 6 hours a day, my results would have been very different because I may not have been able to finish my syllabus. When you say the approach to take is everything of something, that something cannot be very little. That something cannot be 10% or 20% of the syllabus. That something has to be a substantial portion of the syllabus. In my case, I think I decided about 60 to 75% of the syllabus. So to cover that something, which was 75% of the syllabus, I had to put in the kind of hours that I did. If it was any lesser, I would probably have a very different result. And I probably wouldn't have done so well. My target was a 99 percentile, which I did not touch. I received a 98 plus percentile. So, when people say you put in the hours, you put in the effort, generally that reflects positively, and that has a direct correlation with your result.
So okay. So what I'm hearing is this, actually, is that the reason where you're telling me this very confidently that you required this many number of hours because you knew what you were doing. So when I say that you knew what are the key areas that you should focus on, you understood yourself. So if somebody else is listening to your advice, this is the way in which I would want to relay that advice to the students watching this. Is that first of all, you understand what your game plan is, personal game plan, and bet on those particular game plans, stick to it, and look at how many hours that you need to put in to achieve that particular thing, and go ahead and do this. This is what I'm hearing from your stories, actually, so far. This is
Yes, while it's very important to know yourself, it's also very, very important, which in my case happened, to discuss your story with a mentor, with someone who can guide you. Because I had to bank on the knowledge and experience of GP. And there were a lot of areas that I blindly trusted him in because he comes with that expertise. So it's very important to have a mentor in place who can guide you through the preparation. Because if it were only left to me, it's possible that I may sit down and only practice the areas that I was good at. Maybe I would end up doing a lot more of VRC to get a better percentile in VRC than concentrate on QA. So, it's very important to have that checks and balance in place, and that one person in life who can tell you this is the way to go for it, or who can at least, when you're second guessing yourself, confirm your strategy.
You know what? This actually gives me an idea to tell GP that he must create a program called mentorship program. GP's mentorship program at a cost price. I'm sure that you would vouch for that particular program and say that he is going to simply guide you. You prepare and GP will sit and guide. So I'll go to talk to GP after this meeting with you and say that let's roll out this particular program. But there is one more thing that I'm hearing here is that you use the word mentor in singular and not in plural. Okay, which is, I believe, important, at least for me, is that every team has got a coach, and every coach has a different strategy. Outcome for each coach is the same. So one of the things that I keep seeing many people is that they keep running around with different people and taking advice. So which and then some of this advice will be diametrically opposite. So I think one of the smart thing that you did, Sakshi, from where I stand, is that you blindly trusted one particular person and say that this is, so you had complete clarity in terms of, and not confusing this thing, and saying that this is what GP said. Okay, I may not agree at this point in time, I can't see the outcome, but I'm going to trust this particular person, and I'll do this. There are 75% I can understand, 25% I can't. So one other thing that I'm also hearing is that it's not just about some person, mentors in plural, to have the mentor in singular to give you the direction, and also trust your mentor, right? So it probably would have been slightly easier for you because he's your uncle.
Correct. No, mentor relation is based on trust. So I think once you find out the correct kind of mentor for you, you trust that person. And the thing is, people are experts for a reason. People have put in the kind of effort they've put in. They've become mentors after the kind of experience that they have. So it would be very unfair to yourself and to them to not trust their experience. You guys have seen what 20 years of CAT preparation
Yeah, I
already.
know.
So
We're very old. We have become very old people. We are.
that is not what I was implying. I mean, you're very rich in experience.
I want to move on to one other aspect of your preparation, which I'm sure that since you are only 2 months of preparation, you would have focused a lot in terms of your game plan or a strategy with respect to attempting the paper. Did you have anything that you figured out, or and you consistently did, and what was your plan for? Tell me the 3 section plans, your strategy for VRC, your strategy, Sakshi's strategy for VRC, DLR, and QA. What was it?
So, Jijo, I'll tell you what my strategy was section-wise, and this is, I'll tell you my ideal strategy versus what ended up happening during the mocks and what ended up happening in the actual CAT paper. So, my ideal strategy for VRC was that, for the long comprehensions, I take a maximum of 9 to 10 minutes. If I finish it sooner, then I go do a para-jumble and then come back to the next comprehension. So any time saved out of those 10 minutes goes into one of the TITA questions. That was my VARC plan. For VARC, my main struggle was time. So I had to hurry up and I knew time was precious. One of the faults that I had was that I tend to overthink. My gut would tell me to mark a correct answer, and then I would overthink, waste time, and maybe get the wrong answer. So I got confused quite easily in the VRC section. So for VRC, my strategy was to trust my gut and work fast. Every time I'm saving time on a section. So if I'm finishing a comprehension in 8 minutes as opposed to 10 minutes, I do a TITA question, I come back. TITA questions don't waste time. There is no negative marking, and you either know it or you don't know it. You can't keep guessing it. You can waste 10 minutes on it, but your answer is going to remain the same. So that was my strategy for VRC. Don't overthink, answer questions quickly and move on. For DILR, the strategy that I took and that worked for me was that I went through all the questions and all the sets. I spent, I think, the first 7 to 10 minutes deciding on which sets to pick and choose. And as I mentioned earlier, my stronger suit was LR, weaker suit was DI. So, I would start with LR sets and then work my way to DI sets if possible. The realistic goal for me was about 3 sets. In my mocks, I could never attempt more than 3 sets. But even in 3 sets, there were times when I couldn't completely attempt 3 sets, and it was okay. My mock results, in quant especially, what ended up happening was my game plan completely went out of the window because I had realistically set myself a target of 15 questions, but I would end up doing only 8. And I'll tell you the reason for that is because since I was doing everything of something, if there was a question that I knew, and even if it was a long question, I would sit down and attempt that question. So in my mock for quant, there were some questions that took me 5 minutes, which in a 40-minute section is a lot of time. And if you have 2 or 3 or 5-minute questions, you're effectively reducing your average time for other questions. So for my quant mock, strategy was to do 15 questions and move on. It did not happen in my mocks, but eventually in CAT, the strategy that I ended up applying was that if I could answer a question within 2 minutes, I would do it then and there. If I could not, even if it's an area I know, I will come back to. So if it's a geometry question which may take me time, I will come back to it. If I look at it and I think I can solve it in a minute or two, I will do it then and there. So I think I had to inculcate the habit of leaving questions and then coming back to it later.
Wonderful. So how many mocks did you take? How many mocks did you take?
I used to take a mock once every 3 or 4 days, so about 2 mocks a week for sure. In the first, I think, 40 days. Towards the last 20 days, I started taking a mock once every 2 to 3 days.
Okay.
So I did take a lot of mocks, but I think taking many mocks was not my key preparation. It was analyzing these mocks and then revisiting these mocks a couple of days later. So I did a lot of revisiting, especially in the quant and DILR section. Once I was done with the mock, every 20 days I would return back and start from mock 1 and work my way again to all the mocks.
So for all these mocks that you've taken, how many times did you cross, let's say, 90 percentile, 95 percentile in those mocks?
Never.
So why didn't you give up? What made you still stand there and fight? And I'm very interested in saying that, because a lot of people just simply give up because they are not getting the percentile that they're getting. So what is Sakshi's formula?
2 reasons, Jijo. Number one, I knew even though I wasn't getting good results, I knew very well that I was capable of getting good results, because I wasn't getting bad results because I could not solve the paper. I was getting bad results because I had bad time management. So I had to work on the time management and not so much on the content per se, especially towards the end. Towards the end, I largely knew how to answer questions. It's just I chose to answer wrong questions. That's why I didn't give up. And the second thing is, it's very important to have that one person in your life who has trust and faith in you. So I had that person, and even when I was second guessing myself, that voice helped me sail through.
We are all, I think we're coming back to those three things again, that you throughout your preparation as well, you were still analyzing, making course correction, figuring out stuff and figuring out yourself in this journey. And I think the more you took and more you analyzed, I'm also guessing that you knew the test really well as well. You put in your mock test, did analysis. You were working on the weaknesses that you identified for yourself in the 60 days, and then you had a mentor who were helping you throughout the whole journey, and you simply did not give up till the very end. Okay, let me ask you one last question. I wanted to ask you, maybe I should have started with there, so I'll end with that. Why didn't you give up? You had million reasons. Your mock was not improving. You were just so many less number of days. You just tanked your GRE, and there was millions and millions of excuses. It was easy excuses, good excuses. People will not. Everybody looks for excuses like this. You got all excuses all around, but you just did not give up. Tell me one thing. What is the thing according to you when you look back?
It's very important. I found my driving factors. There were certain things that drove me. Firstly, internal pressure. As I've mentioned to you, I'm someone who wants to do well. So internal pressure had to prove to myself that I can do better. So that was one of my main driving reasons. It was the reason I put in 10 hours a day. It was the reason I didn't give up. The second thing is, being GP's niece, I knew there was a pressure that, personal pressure again. But if I give up, it reflects very poorly. Even with the best mentorship available, I could not do well. So that would reflect very poorly on me. And as myself, I may not be able to deal with it. So I found what drove me, which in my case was pressure. And that pressure drove me to put in hours. And that resulted into effort. And that effort resulted into a good CAT attempt. But that pressure is what molded me, I would say.
Wonderful, Sakshi. Lovely speaking to you, and I'm sure that all the GP's mentee of his channel would have learned, had a great learning from you. I wish you the very best, and may you have, may you put in more effort and let the effort drive you, and you be very successful in your life. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you for your mock interview.
Yeah.
So, GP, I just had a word with your niece. So basically, she
Yeah.
has given all the credit to you.
Mhm.
That you have been her inspiration. So I just want your perspective in terms of. So I understood that she had the fight and struggles in areas, but she put in a lot of effort. Is there any
Mhm.
insights that you can give in as a mentor? What what are the few things that you think work for her?
See, one of the things that was an advantage between the two of us is she's my sister's daughter. So I've seen her grow. I know exactly what she's good at, what is it that she can do, and what is it she can achieve. So right from beginning, I was very clear. If there's someone in my family who can comfortably crack CAT, it is Sakshi Bhalla. Okay, I was very clear. In fact, I normally say she's the black sheep of our family because unlike me, my brother, and my extended family, most of us have been poor at studies. My sister has been the black sheep, followed by Sakshi, and then my brother's son, and my son to some extent. So these are the 4-5 people who don't follow the norm in the family. So I was very clear she can do it one. So I was convinced about it. Secondly, I always knew that she's someone who's hardworking. So even if I give her a task, she will do it. Also because she's got a huge ego. So you have to challenge her ego. You have to say, Sakshi, you can do it. Agar tu nahi kar sakti, then who can do it? So you have to push her towards that, and I think that worked to some extent. Thirdly, what I think I've always maintained, CAT is more of a reading paper than a maths paper, and her strength was English. However, initial couple of papers, all she was doing was she was acting like a lawyer. She wanted to be perfect. She wanted to win every argument. So she would waste a lot of time in the RC passages, for example. So the only thing I would say I did as far as English was concerned, or verbal logic was concerned, was go with your gut feel. You are someone who is a lawyer. You go with your instinct. You will usually get it right. I think that's what worked. That's what changed the things for her for English more than anything else. And I've seen this in many students. They want to be perfect. Okay. She wanted to be perfect at the beginning. How can I get this answer wrong? So I think that is what was important.
Yeah, I think Voltaire says that perfection is enemy of good.
Yeah.
तो परफेक्ट के चक्कर में अच्छा चीज हम नहीं करते हैं.
बर्बाद हो जाता है पूरा. So इसका शुरू में यही हो रहा था, but she picked that up. Okay. Then there are a couple of other things I would say. I don't know if she mentioned it or not, but I used to tell her you have that topper syndrome, and that's this word I use, or a set of words which I use for many students.
She said that.
The problem with toppers is exactly this. They want to be perfect. They don't want to leave anything. They want to do every stupid question that comes their way, and they get more excited when they get a difficult question. While people like me who barely pass school, we are looking for easy questions, and that was the only other change which I needed to get into her. That at end of the day, it is the same 3 marks per question, whether it's a 5-minute question or 30-second question. So why should you do a 5-minute question? And the other part obviously was being a lawyer, being someone who can think logically. That LR came normally to her. Okay. She was very quick on the uptake with LR. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought LR would be a challenge for her. It turned out DI was a different thing.
She said she loves LR. She likes LR. I think one of these words. That's what I remember she's telling.
Absolutely. So if there was one gap which I found was to begin with was that quant. 5 years of law, 3 years of practice, 8 years of zero maths, and completely out of touch. So all we did was we picked up NC videos, night class videos, and said, okay, you have to finish this. And the hardworking girl that she is, she finished them. Okay. So that was it. Get your fundas in place on the topics and the areas that you are comfortable with. And something which I will say, I always say that you need to strengthen your strong points and ignore the weak points, because in any case you need to do maybe 40-45 out of 76 questions, or in case of a 100 question paper, maybe 60 out of 100. So that I think she diligently worked on it. Even a week before CAT, she had to go back to Bombay because her center was Bombay. from mid-September till mid-December, mid-November, she was there with me. Then she went to Bombay to be sure that she does not get quarantined or not able to take the paper. She left around 14, 15 December, November, if I remember correctly. But there she then continued with the part of, let's say, old CAT papers. One thing which I very... Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, GP, please continue.
Yeah, one thing which I strongly recommend to all students, which very few do, is don't worry about taking 50 mocks. Do 20 mocks, 25 mocks, analyze each of them, identify where you went wrong. Most importantly, where did you waste time? People don't worry about time at all.
This is something that I actually wanted to ask you. She did a lot of analysis of the mock. Did you guide her specifically how to analyze, or did you handhold in the initial piece of analysis, or you just told her what to do, and how was that?
No, I did not have to handhold her. We did 4-5 papers together. Then she picked it up herself. So we went through the process. We did 4-5 papers together. Then she picked up. After that, every time she took a paper, we would discuss specific questions, how they could have been shortcuts, where options could have been used, where choices could have been used. I don't know if she told you, but in CAT, in her slot, she had 1 6-question set which solved completely by choices. I'm extremely happy with that. Because that's
she did with choices.
She did completely that 1 6-question data set. And her attempt in DI, remember, was only 10 questions. All 10 apparently are right. And 6 of them were solved with the help of choices, that complete set. Okay? So because he said that seemed to be the only logical answer, I said I agree with that completely, that thought process. So analysis of papers was something we started off with. She picked it up. She did it herself. Going forward, my role for her was not to teach. She can learn herself. But the important thing from my point was that she's someone who can put in 8 to 10 hours. Look at this way: 60 days, 10 hours, maybe about 500 to 600 hours. Correct. That is what people do in 6 to 9 months of preparation. Okay. So she covered that gap. So it is doable. And usually I say, even now when people are starting to prepare for CAT, I say if you're willing to put 3 to 4 hours a day for the next 5 to 6 months, you can do it. The number of hours you require is 500 odd hours. I always believe. Okay. So yeah. So that to that question, that analyzing papers and most importantly revising those data sets, those questions was very, very important. So about 20 odd mocks, analyzed completely, identified the flaws in terms of test taking, and revising important questions was something what was done diligently by her.
This is since you brought in that topic, GP, this is something that I personally am not understood. People say that I have solved, let's say, so many questions. My scores are not improved, so let me do more questions. My question is, what if you have not learned from the question that you've solved? What is the guarantee from the question? I think that's attitude that people don't go back to things that they have done. I think this is an Indian mentality. I'm thinking we just want to do new things rather than actually going back. Big learning happens when you go back and do the stuff that you already did. Yeah, that's very big learning.
It's that quantity we run after. I have so many pages of material, so many GB of material that to me doesn't make sense at all. I have always found, if you look at the question now and you look at the question again a couple of days later, you will find a better way of solving that question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so if you have to improve, many times people ask me, why do you get so many shortcuts and tricks? Because I keep going back to those questions, I keep revisiting them, and something strikes at that point of time. And that's what Sakshi did, and which is why I said that 6 questions of DILR, 1 set, choices. It happened at that point of time because of the couple of months of effort she put in working that way.
Oh, wonderful. So I was actually while speaking with Sakshi, I said that this is a program that you should run, mentorship with GP. You study from anywhere else, but I'm going to give the mentorship, and that's something that I thought I'll tell you also.
One of the things which is critical for such a thing to happen is that the student should have trust in you or faith in you. If the student believes that completely what you're saying, because one of the challenges we find, even now, students getting interview final calls, they will ask 10 people, which institute should I join? And get 5 different answers and come back equally confused. So my point is, in a CAT kind of a paper, in any preparation process, if you are not willing to blindly trust the guide or the mentor you have, then that mentorship is going to be completely a waste of time.
Which is why I was telling Sakshi as well. Mentor in singular, not plural. So you have to have or not have anyone. Trust yourself and
Yeah, which is perfectly fine.
Or be smart enough to figure out pick stuff from there. I think that anyways. So
Yeah.
great, GP. I think thank you for making me part of your channel, and I hope that I did justice to this
Yeah.
interview.
Yes, Vijay, and thank you very much. And you are the original contributor to GP Ka Funda. Remember the
Yeah.
RC part, which I got you involved in.
I know my RC journey started with your blog. And for everyone, please do visit GP Ka Funda. I think that people don't read these days, but I think if you just go to, it's a blog. You please go there, visit, and it's a GP has put in his wealth of information there, and I would sincerely want all of you to take advantage of that. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Vijay.